Hi, we're live. Robert went off to close a window or something. There we go. Here he comes.
Yes,
Hey, Robert.
closing the door. Hello.
Closing the door. Hi. Hi, everyone. So great that you can all be here. Let's see how many people we've got already joined us. Quite
Quite a few.
a few. Yeah,
From
100.
where? Chapawapa? Where? New York. Sweet.
Oh, it's great.
And
There's
Mexico and
the
Boston and Michigan
wow.
and
That's great. Oh,
Minneapolis,
Minneapolis.
Jersey. All right.
Well, we are happy Tuesday indeed. We are in, I'm in The Hague in the Netherlands. And Robert?
I'm in Chicago. As usual, you'll always find me here for the most part.
Just a quick note, does my video look bad? Ross, are you
It's a
there?
little bit. Is it me or is it a little bit blurry? Is your
Yeah,
video a
let
little bit?
me check something.
Yeah.
James, let's see if that helps. Oh, why is it that just went blurry like right now, didn't it, Robert? You would have told me like
Yeah, I think it's.
that's
I think
so
it's like a bandwidth. I think it just
yeah.
choked a little bit on the bandwidth, maybe.
Okay, we'll see if it improves a little bit. All right. Let's hope that bandwidth comes back up.
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, it is blurry, but you guys can hear me all right, right? That's oh, who knows? Who controls the internet today, right? Okay, sound is good.
Just
That's what
turn
we
it
care
off and
about.
turn it back on.
Yeah, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. What's going on? Do you want me to rejoin?
No, I think it
No, anyway.
is what it
Yeah,
is.
that's
I
fine.
guess.
We'll
Yeah.
just go ahead. So we can actually see if my screen is blurry by sharing. How does that look, Robert?
Looks okay. Yeah. I
Okay,
just have
good.
like a little
So
thumbnail, but that looks fine.
seems to be my camera. So there we go. Introducing Source Connect. And yeah, so Robert and I are here. Just go back to this window. We're here to talk about Source Connect 4, which has been in development for quite a while. The story goes back to the pandemic, really. We had been thinking about what comes next in the world of Source Connect, and we had actually been working on something before COVID. However, it sort of turned out that what we thought was needed for the world, I guess, as you could say, everything
The,
changed, and what we thought
the scope got bigger. Yeah.
yeah, very, very different. Yeah, for sure. Like it wasn't so much. I think the main thing is, and Robert, you really explained this to me really well. So I reiterate what I share with other people that, you shared with me, that the difference is now that we're living a hybrid life. We don't know any moment to the next where we're going to be. Like, hey, I've got a session tomorrow. I might be at home. I might be downtown. I might be picking up the kids. I might be, going on to the airport. This is what's changed. The big, big, big thing that's changed. We're just less tied to a location. Would you agree?
Yeah. And then the other thing we learned was like it wasn't just that Source Connect was you might have remote talent or you might have remote clients, but really the whole thing was remote and both sides. And at any one point, someone could say, "Hey, just send me a link and let me join in." So exactly, it became very dynamic. Sort of assumed that wherever you are, I mean, you can just join a meeting, and so we kind of retooled Source Connect to be able to play better in that type of environment.
Yeah. So in Source Elements, we've been doing this for 20 years. Next year is actually our 20th anniversary. So really looking
Yeah.
forward to that. And so there'll be some great stuff happening next year. And Source Elements was started like many good things in tech on a napkin. Robert and I having a beer. We'd been friends for a while. Robert had mixed a CD of mine in the late 90s before we even met, the powers of the internet.
Yeah.
And so I was passing through Chicago. For those of you who don't know New Zealand, which is where I'm from, to get to New Zealand, you have to go through somewhere else. And at that particular time, I'd chosen Chicago. So so Robert and I got to meet up in person. And then he basically was like, "Oh, you program software. I've got an idea." And that was it. That was my life gone.
I ruined it. Yeah.
Not ruined.
The I think that we outlasted the brewery where we met at. I believe that Rock
Oh,
Bottom was.
yes, it shut down, didn't it? That's
I think
sad.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
So where did that crazy idea come from, Robert?
Well, it's just, I was working at that time Cutters in another country, like the audio division, and we were knocking down a lot of ISDN sessions, and the um the owners, it was, gosh, this is so expensive, always complaining about it. And right at that time, the internet was just sort of making like people didn't even necessarily have broadband at their house at that time. So you had broadband at companies, and DSL was barely happening. It technically had not happened yet. Um, but I kept on saying, you have this massive internet connection, which at that time was a T1, a whopping 1.5 megabits per. But at that time, it was huge, and I was like, why ISDN? It's only 128 kilobits per second. Here's this 1,500 kilobit per second line. Why can't that be used? And I'd done some experiments and had a good idea that it was all possible, but nothing out really applied directly to replacing ISDN, and thus our conversation, where I was like, I have this idea. I'd like to, push these high quality connections over the internet. Skype was brand new at this time. I mean, Skype might have been 6 months old or a year old, maybe at best. I don't even think it was quite out yet.
By the time we launched, yes, it didn't
Yeah,
exist when our first conversation was happening.
exactly. So then, right,
So
you know, the rest.
yeah, I mean, you can say, we did achieve that goal of yours to build the premier recording solution that has a lot of new unique features, very high quality connections that don't time stretch. And why is that important, Robert?
Well, you're recording the audio, and essentially what you want is something that feels as close to like having a that talent right there in your studio recording them, and so you don't expect all these artifacts that Skype and really everything else does. So every other connection out there is really using as its backbone a consumer system, which at its heart is really there to provide a conversation and preserve intelligibility, but its mission isn't really fidelity. So, Source Connect kind of had a different mission in mind. It had error correction. It doesn't really try to mask or hide the errors. It corrects them, or it leaves them available to be fixed in the file. But in the end, you're always left with the true fidelity of the recording, especially in the time domain, and also in the frequency domain. It doesn't play sort of variable bit rate games and other things to try to hide what's going on. So for production audio, and that's what you need. You need to have a proper recording of the people you're working with.
Yeah, we also achieved that by, all the way back to the original PCM data capture, the source input with the auto restore and replace feature. That's been really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, it basically lets Source Connect sort of be the hybrid of a file-based workflow and a real-time streaming workflow. You get the best of both worlds. You're able to stream and record as if you're connected directly, because you are. And then if there's anything that happens with that connection due to bandwidth, the auto restore and auto replace system kind of analyzes that file very quickly, patches anything that didn't arrive in real time, and then through the replace process, when you're all done, essentially upreses or gets the uncompressed PCM audio from the talent side and conforms it to everything that you recorded and edited during that real time session. So you have the guarantee of a file based system, and you have the creativity and the speed of a real time system combined.
And
Yeah.
we've really revamped this, like re-engineered it for Source Connect
Yeah.
4 in a big way. I'm really proud of the changes we've made.
Yep. Doesn't require that both sides are on the same sample rate, for example, which is
Or
really
channel.
makes, or the same channel count, right? So
Or
you can have
that
it.
you don't have, yeah, it's a built into the application.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more, I don't know, so many things. We're actually going to go into it specifically on a separate webinar um, in, yeah, I think next week or the week after. So we'll go into details then. But I think it'll be really good. Another one that we'll do directly more in detail is the remote transport sync,
Right.
which is the direct transport locking between doors that can connect to either end without the need to use the same time code on both sides. So by that we mean now that rewire is not available because it got dropped for Apple Silicon support. We had to redesign it, and so this time we're using LTC and MTC, which actually I think is a really great solution, and I'm quite happy with the end result.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of a traditional way of working, but has the spin of not making sides that don't have LTC hardware or capabilities have to deal with working with LTC, and the side that does work with LTC, say a stage or some setup that's fairly complex, they can work with LTC. But in the middle, we're just passing time, and we're not passing a specific format. I mean, unless you think of actually RTS as sort of a format in that sense, but it's a translator, and we'll see more sophisticated things be added to that, and even rewire one day when it gets resurrected, I hope.
Yeah. Um, so on to the other big changes is that we've got built-in conferencing or multi-connect with up to 6 parties with discrete real-time outputs on the studio side.
For now, 6
MIDI
parties, right?
for now. Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
definitely is temporary. We're working on
increasing. Yeah.
expanding that a lot. We've got MIDI in both directions, so you could use MIDI obviously for MTC. Yes, we'll see it in a bit. And so yeah, you can use MIDI, for example, to play instruments remotely.
Mhm.
If you're on the studio version, to run controllers.
Send messages
And
and
yeah,
control message. Yeah.
yeah, it's very cool. And of course, we've got a new link plugin that's been updated and has some pretty cool features. We'll show that in the next one as well. So there's a lot to get through. So people are asking, can they see it? Here we go. Here's my screen.
Yeah,
And
that's
if it's
actually
too,
2 copies of Source Connect. In the background,
yes,
you have the talent version, which is the sort of the new name for standard, and then the darker one is the pro version, which is going to be
studio.
studio.
This is actually facility, which
Facility.
has
Oh, it's the full
other
version. Okay.
extended options. Yeah,
Yeah. The
which is Pro
facility
X.
takes the place of Pro X, right?
Yes, exactly. So you can see here I'm streaming to Robert, who is his non de plume today, Martin, twice. I'm
Right.
streaming from Kimbra
And
and
I
as
can
John.
send audio into there. There I am. Hello.
Oh, which one?
I think all of them. I'm
Oh,
just
I've got you,
arriving
Michelle.
on both. Yeah.
Go. There we go. Yeah, we
Yep.
can see you coming in.
Ha 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 ha.
It took me. So that would be, I would just hear Martin or Robert now. So this is cool. We know you all wanted mute buttons. So here's your mute buttons on the talent version. You can mute everybody. Actually, I can mute myself for everybody. I can mute my receive for everybody, or I can mute just individual people. And on the studio version, I can also just mute myself individually if I want to have a private chat with one person. Then I can also do that
You
really
can
easily.
also on this, yeah, yeah. So Studio, you can mute the send separately from the receive.
In a
Yep.
studio, this is the cool part. I have to say, look at this. I can output different outputs to different people.
Yeah,
I
if you
mean,
want to show my screen, I have a little use
yeah,
of that going on
yes,
actually.
please. Here we go.
So here I'm connected to the two connections, and I have the outputs going to Talent 1 and Talent 2, and these are actually the plugins. These are not audio devices. So you can name the plugins now, which now gives you the opportunity that when you close and reopen sessions, it knows what plugin to pick up by name, and you don't have to keep on remembering to link and which ones to link where. So here's the plugin, pretty simple. And then that plugin is going over from these aux tracks over to these record tracks. I have muted to prevent feedback. But Rebekah, if you want, you could say hello individually to each one, depending on which version of your Source Connect you speak into or unmute. Um, I have the two tracks there, so I can record the two talent completely separately on two separate tracks, and I don't have to patch them together, which is a huge advantage now. So you have a conferenced connection where everyone hears each other without the engineer having to do anything, but the engineer can pick out individual outputs and record those separately in their DAW, as is the case here. So there you go. You don't have to watch screen anymore.
That's very cool. So, we talked about how the talent vision. I'll just go back to that for a second because I just want to touch on what's changed and what's important. Obviously, what's changed is the user interface. So, we can see here it's a pretty big new app. It can take up the whole screen. I love this because I'm a little bit blind. I don't have them here, but my glasses I usually wear. And it's really nice to have all this real estate for me to be able to move around in. However,
I won't
Robert, the
say
sound
anything.
engineer,
Yeah, I won't say
he
anything
likes
about how
things
big.
tiny. So look at
Yeah,
that. We make it really small, and it's the same height as Source Connect 3. However, it's a little bit wider than Source Connect 3, but Robert wants it to get smaller, so we'll work on that. We just have to make these tabs like icons or something.
yeah.
And so the cool thing is, so I've got now a small version of Source Connect, and so if you need to do doing stuff with the rest of your screen, you can, still look at that. So I can make these too small if I want. And, if I need to find somebody, I can find them here in my roster. That's all the same, by the way, completely the same as your Source Connect 3. Lots
Yeah.
to go through. So
But
maybe,
but one nice thing about the roster to point out is that as I connect it to different people and have different settings for my outputs, when I
yeah,
connect to them again, Source Connect is
ah,
able to remember those output settings and even input
yes,
settings, and always have the same settings for a particular connection you make, if
yeah.
you want. So you don't have to keep on resetting
Let me
things up.
demonstrate this. So I'm going to just set my outputs for John. And then I can also just disconnect John in a friendly way. I can say, John, we don't want you on this call right
See
now.
ya.
Thanks. I can disconnect here. And then John gets disconnected. And I get this error message. You've been removed. Okay. But then I say, I want to reconnect to John. And I have in my default settings my MacBook and output source Nexus. However, before I disconnected from John, I changed those settings. And so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to connect to John again and connect. I'm going to get this nice new window here. So this is also very new. Your incoming call now has the picture of somebody on it. And we've just got some more information. You can see it's a restore, replace session, and I have 2 minutes to accept. So it tells me how long ago. And it's also beeping my headphones right now. The same familiar Source Connect beep beep, but it's a little bit more stereo and a little bit warmer. So I quite like it. I'm going to accept here. And then what we'll see is that John will join. Takes a couple of seconds.
Yep. And also my
Yes.
system picked up the exact same thing. So it said, "Oh, you
Yep.
were using that second plugin," and it connected
Exactly.
right back to the second plugin for me as
Yep.
well.
And Also, you see I've got this blue line around here. This means that I've requested restore and replace from John. We'll go into this next time. But here, John can tell this because this icon's lit up, whereas Martin doesn't have a blue line, and I couldn't get restore replace from him as an engineer. So again, we'll go into that later on. Yeah, should we go into the settings?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll
dive
start
in.
with the talent. So one thing that was really important to me was to make the experience of version 4 not too dissimilar from 3, so that you would feel familiar. And it's pretty much very, very similar settings from 3. You've got your input and your output. Differences here, we've got MIDI. Many of you won't need it, just ignore it. For those of you who are musicians or for other reasons want to use it, go crazy. Super fun to play someone else's remote synth. And I set my channels, same thing, mono and stereo like you're used to. And then we've added, drum roll please, an extra high value now. So before it was just low, medium, high, and now Talent have best, which is 160 kilobits AAC. So really happy about that, given this extra high quality recording feature. And then of course the buffer still there. I always leave them my auto.
But there's one thing really important that's missing.
Oh, what?
PORTS. No
No, no,
ports.
no, not in the Talent version.
I know that's missing. It's a good.
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, yes. All right. So exactly what's missing? Ports. Why? You don't need them anymore. Um, I'll come back to this. Let's look in the logs. This is super useful. So now we have this information here. It says you are receiving a connection on port minus 24,124, and it tells me the settings and the audio I'm using. This is great for support later on if you need it, or why did something go wrong? Really great. Let me bring the microphone a bit closer and to see if the microphone has gone down again. Sometimes it does. Just checking here. Yes, it did. Thanks, Apple. Apple does this weird thing of turning my microphone down without me wanting. So basically, we do not need to set ports in this Talent version anymore. It's not needed. We do it all for you. It always connects. If it can't connect, it'll go through SourceStream, Windows, Mac. Everybody has it, and so you're just going to find connections are amazingly stable. It works from anywhere. I've been traveling the last 2 years all over the world, and every time I'm in an airport or an airplane, in a hotel, on my 4G or 5G network, anywhere in the world, I've been around the world about twice in the last 3 years testing Source Connect 4 as we go, and it just works. It's amazing. The only place
I'd
it
pull your
won't
audio
work.
back a little bit.
Okay, now it's too hot.
Just right.
Guess which one here is not the audio engineer. How's that? And
That's better.
thank you. Good. There, see, I take direction. Robert's used to giving good direction too. That's what he's good at. So the connections works. The only place it doesn't, as I was saying, is if you're in a very, very strict network, like inside a very corporate environment. But then you have IT people, and don't worry, they can do their ports. We'll get that to in a second. We'll just finish off a couple of other cool things. You'll love this auto login feature. That will mean, if it's your computer, you use it all the time. You don't, share accounts with other people on your computer. Just have it log in all the time, and auto login is sweet. Launch, get working, make it happen. And then this was the one for SourceStream. This is a bit experimental, but what we found, Robert, maybe you want to explain where this one came from.
I'm not even sure. Basically,
with our
Source
conversation with
Connect
Andrew.
3, sometimes it would need to use, like, it was supposed to figure out if it needed to use SourceStream or not automatically, and every now and then Source Connect 3 would think it didn't need to use SourceStream, and so there was an option in Source Connect 3 to force its use, and um, that's the same thing, right? To just don't try any other method, only use SourceStream.
Yeah, and one of the benefits we found from this is, doing a peer-to-peer connection over the internet, just to go into some technical detail. When you connect over the internet, you're going to bounce through other computers around the world to get from where you are to the other place. And so you might go, we call hops. So for example, for me to get to Chicago to talk to Robert, I have to go out, to go to Amsterdam, probably Amsterdam to New York to Chicago. And then there's some other computers in between. And so that's a peer-to-peer connection, just doing the best route it can. However, the internet is packet-based. That means it's broken up to tiny little pieces, and every like half a second is a packet. So I send a packet, send a packet, send a packet. Do you know what can happen? It can take a different path each time. It's crazy, but that's also why the internet's so resilient, because if one of those paths go down, the internet doesn't care. So this is why it's so robust. However, it also means it's unreliable in insertion and timing. And when you're doing a peer-to-peer connection, it's just going to do the best that your hosts can do, that your service. So, right, I'm on, KPN in the Netherlands, and Robert, you're on, I don't know what, in
AT&T.
Comcast or something, AT&T in Chicago. So
Yeah.
we're not even the same company, and we're definitely going through at least probably 3 or 4 other companies to get to each other, right? And so there's handoffs and there's all these things happening. It's really fast, but still, maybe one of those machines went down or it got too much traffic, and so all of these things can happen with the peer-to-peer. Now, SourceStream is a little bit simpler. It goes through a third-party server, and because it always goes through that same server for the whole connection, firstly, we don't need to port forward because it circumvents this need for port forwarding. But secondly, it also makes it more stable because we can stay on the same host for like the greater part of the connection. So Robert can join SourceStream in the States, and then I can join in Europe, and then we're actually using the same provider, the same service to get over that long distance, and it just makes it a bit more stable.
Yeah, I can actually
Hi.
comment on this. Even I've run into this rarely, but it's happened before where, um, maybe you have your ports forwarded, but you also have the option to force SourceStream, and you have a poor connection with forwarded ports, and then you put it through SourceStream, and it works better. And really, what that speaks to is that you just have at least one alternate route. So imagine you're driving your car, and GPS gives you directions, and those are the only directions it gives you, and it's right through a traffic jam. With forcing SourceStream, you at least have the ability to say, "Give me one other route," and hopefully it avoids that traffic jam possibly. And so sometimes it's just useful to have a different path, basically. The internet, as Rebekah said, doesn't care. Its beauty and its fault is that it's fault tolerant. Back in the day with ISDN, if there was a problem, it would just go do do do, and then there's no connection for you. Whereas the internet will just keep on muddling on, even if the bandwidth is slowed down. And so that's a good thing, and that it's persistent, but it's also sometimes not ideal because it just might not perform like it needs to.
Yeah. So I hope that helps explain a little bit about SourceStream, why it's important, why it's there, and we'll be developing more integrations with that. So instead of just having an on-off button, you can choose. We'll also be able to, have some certain rules and decisions according to the type of connection that you're on. So,
Yes. And
yeah.
by the
So
way, for the corporate users, the SourceStream servers can be whitelisted, and that's how, if
yeah,
you're behind a really strict corporate network, you could you might have to bless the SourceStream servers, and then but you wouldn't need to do port forwarding necessarily.
yeah,
But one
exactly.
other
You
nice thing
choose.
about the corporate networks is we also have it now working with proxy setups.
Hmm, we'll get to that.
Yeah, sorry.
No, no, lots of info to share today. Um, So I think this is everything on the talent settings that's important, and we can come back to it in a bit if there we find some questions. We're just going to move on. I'm going to go over back to the
And
what we
going to the other
call,
thing, I would let Source Connect decide if it needs to use Source Stream and generally keep that setting turned off
yeah,
unless you very
yeah.
mindfully want to redirect it for some specific reason, like you feel you're going through a traffic jam, or I don't know that Source Connect 4 does the same thing that 3 had done sometimes where it didn't really realize it needed to kick over to Source Stream.
It does. Oh, did I lose Robert or did you guys lose me? Okay, so
Check
if
what?
anyone can tell me. Yep. Hi, Robert. Are you back? Sorry, we have a glitch. Robert froze. Okay, so you can still hear me. Okay, so I'll keep going. Oh, here he's back now.
All my drivers
Hey,
went
Robert.
to sleep or something. My
You're
USB audio
something went to
driver,
sleep.
he just went away. Like I had to go reselect it. Yeah.
Okay, so coming back here to this version. So firstly, we made them distinct in color. We have this silver steel version for talent, which I really love, really elegant. And then we have the dark gray, blacker version for the studio. So it's easy to tell them apart. And let's start with the chat. So the chat is still, as you might expect. Hello, Robert, you got my message. What did I say? Did we lose you again?
No, I'm
Oh,
here. What's the
okay.
what did you need? Oh, you want me to
I
text
sent
you?
something in the chat.
I should be. I'm looking at the other chat. There you go.
All right, yeah. All right, hi, great. All right, so that works. Again, this is super, super basic. We're going to be adding a lot more functionality to this as we go. So the notices, right now, it's just a graphic. But again, we have really great plans for this. This is going to become personalized for you when there's software updates, when there's, something that we think that you need to know. We're really excited about this panel here. For now, it's just a graphic. And connections, this is the important part. Robert, I think we agreed when you connect, we're going to make it go to the connections tab by default because I
I've
agree
been
that would be very
waiting for
helpful.
that. Yes.
And so we start at the top left here. We've got the whether it's a restore and replace session. As you can see again, Martin is grey, but I'm requesting it from Jan, and I'm the requester. And we can tell because this arrow is pointing down, which means things come to me, whereas Jan has his arrow. It's going up because talent can only be the uploader. But if I was on facility or studio, then it would be going an up arrow. We've got our picture here, which just makes it easier to find each other. So big change from Source Connect 3. And then, of course, the send and receive meters. Oh, look at this. Volume sliders. That's cool. Let me try and turn the volume down. We've
But don't
got
use
that
them.
nice. Actually, we can use them, Robert. We can talk about this in the Restore Replace webinar.
Oh, we can track those
They're
now
restore replace friendly. Yes, they are. They
on
they
the
are.
input side, but not the output
Mhm.
side.
We will discuss that. Yeah,
Oh,
I think we should go into that. All right.
but still don't use
My
them.
favorite
You
part
you have
is
faders elsewhere in your DAW.
yeah, I know we're professionals. We should be using our own faders. I agree on our hardware. All right. And the mute plugins that we talked about earlier. It also tells us, much like Source Connect 3 did, what our settings are. So how many, rate that I'm sending and my audio IO. And then this is what's really cool. Also another really cool thing about with the studio facility version, I can change these connections per person. So I can change if I want a buffer. That's optional. Again, under what circumstances might you want to change from auto to fixed buffer, Robert?
Well, if you're doing certain types of music sessions, you want to have a fixed buffer where you've locked in your latency. Um, other, I mean, I think that'd be the main case. A lot of the times, it's good to let it float its buffer a little bit because it still won't time stretch. It'll just adjust. So, but there's a few workflows where you might want to, if you've figured out your latency and you want to rely on a locked-in latency, that's mainly where fixed latency would come into play.
Yeah. And I think some things in the future also that will come
Mm-hmm.
into that. So again, I can change my input and output separately per connection, and it will remember that connection. We have a new setting coming soon where I can choose whether to remember it or use my defaults, and again, my channels and bitrate. So super, super, super handy. I can disconnect that user, and also if I forget what I'm doing, I can click here and it will open the user guide for me on the our website. And it also just again reminds me who I am talking to, so I don't accidentally change things for the wrong person.
And that's the Pro X version that you have there, right? Or
This
sorry, the
is
facility
it's a
version.
studio facility, the same. Yeah.
What's your input channel width? Just to begin with, what does it look like if you click on that menu?
Config.
Yeah, what are your options there for input channel? How many channels can you? Oh, no, not like mono stereo.
Oh right, yeah. Of course, we didn't talk about that. So
Ah,
yeah, the difference now is studio has stereo and facility is 24. We've gone up from 7.1 to 24. I think that's
yeah.
pretty awesome. There's a
And we
lot of
can't talk
uses for
about it, but
that.
there might be something else coming
We
to that.
can't talk about it.
We don't know what, where, who.
Moving on. Moving on.
Yeah.
All right. So another thing is the roster is I can filter. So if I'm looking for my good friend Hayden and I've got a big long list, I can find him here. I see he's offline, but maybe I need to call him. I can click on that three dots. Hayden hasn't put his phone number in to his profile, but he had. I'd have his phone number. I could call him. At least I've got the email here and I can see the location he's in. Now,
And at the bottom, you can
also,
reset it. Yeah,
really
you can
awesome.
reset the.
Exactly. So if I thought last time I connected to Hayden, I used my output specifically and I want to reset it, I can just reset that. So that's
And
super,
go back
super
to the
useful.
defaults when you connect with them.
Yeah, exactly. And
I
of
think
course,
at some
here
point
shows
we'll be able
here,
to add and remove people to the contacts list from within here, but we don't quite have that yet.
not yet, but if I
Yeah.
click on this pencil here, that will bring up my dashboard to manage the contacts.
Right.
Yeah,
Eventually that'll
yeah,
be in here without going to the
exactly.
browser. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, lots of cool things to do here as well. So, and then the logs, I mentioned that a little bit. We're basically saying, who I logged in as, which is useful if you're sharing computers with somebody, and the connection. This is more for support than anybody. And again, the logs right now, you have to sort of copy them, but we'll be putting in a send to support button and share logs and stuff to come as well. A restore replace, we're going to talk about next time. But this is basically what was the queue manager is now built into here.
Which, by
It's
the way, everyone, it
really
stood for
comprehensive.
quality management, quality manager. That's what
Yes,
it.
queue for quality. And the remote transport sync, which
Right.
we'll also do a whole webinar about. But just quickly, you can see I can choose a MIDI driver or a input for LTC.
And then
And then we've
output,
got your
you can pick
typical
your output too.
important stuff. Exactly. Yeah. So LTC or MTC. And this talent can choose
So to
does
be clear,
MTC
someone can
out.
send MTC and the other side
Right.
can output LTC, and they don't have to
Yes,
agree on using either.
exactly. That's really important. So, I could choose LTC in here, click send, and then Jan could receive and send it out MTC. This is cool. It's really
Um,
cool.
what about the video feed for ADR? We have some fun stuff coming up for ADR, but for the most part, at least on the initial release, the ADR workflows will continue to use time code and probably time code through the RTS feature. Or if you're super old school, you can keep on sending time code on the right side. What you won't be doing is rewire. But
I
either way.
recommend the person who asked that question come to the webinar. We have the third one after this. So we've got 3 in the series. The third one will be specifically about these workflows for sure. So we'll just keep going a little bit more, almost finished, and then we can get to those questions. We talked about being able to resize the windows as well. So, if you want it larger size, smaller size, we've worked on making it a really nice responsive UI. And
The LTC,
Robert,
yeah. I was just
you
saying.
have your, oh yeah, since you have Pro Tools open,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to just show how the link plugin works now and the
Sure.
changes that are different?
Yeah. So this first initial version of Link is right here. It has a feature now where you can pass your input through to your output. Might make some routing for some people easier instead of it only sending and only receiving. So you can monitor your own through if you want. But basically, the biggest difference, you do have additional volume knobs here and mute capabilities, a little bit redundant to the volume and the mute that's in the plugin or in the software itself. And I really apologize about Chicago here.
Chicago? What? Come
Yeah.
on. Fire trucks?
But you can name the plugin. And then when you go over to Source Connect and you look at the IO, it picks up that by the name of the plugin. So it's always going to look for the same named plugin. And therefore, you don't have to keep on reselecting Link for input and output. It's going to remember that for that particular connection. Unless, of course, you go into the connection and reset it, which kind of like down there. Anyways, so yeah, you can same idea with the plugin. The input is what you send over to the software. What you're receiving from the Source Connect software shows up in the output of the plugin. So here, this is my input, which is basically just getting talkback, ha ha ha, and go back to the plugin. And then the output is feeding a bus, which goes to my record track. And that's the way we've been doing that route for the last 20 years.
20 years. Yeah. If it doesn't work, don't break it.
Right.
Wow. Great. And let me see if we missed anything. Oh, one other thing that, just might be overlooked, but we can send asynchronous connections. So you can see here, I'm receiving from Kimbra mono,
I think
I'm
you're still
receiving from
sending.
Martin stereo.
You're still looking at my screen. You can switch
Oh,
back to your screen.
here we go. Yeah, so here I'm receiving from Kimbra mono, receiving from Martin stereo, and Martin, you could go ahead and change 24 to 24 channels just for, say, Kimbra,
Yeah.
just so we
Here,
can see that change happen.
I'll send over a bunch. So you can send and receive different numbers of channels. So here's Kimber, and if I go into Kimber's settings and say 24 channels, now in a moment, you're going to see that switch to
Yep.
24.
So here it is
And I don't have the
on my
routing right
side.
now. I like to
And
feed, but
I'm
the meter becomes like a real-time analyzer with lots of tiny little meters within it.
Yeah, and I can only then send it out to a device with 24 channels. If I don't have one, it's going to go to none. So we've also, taken care to make sure that we don't break things. We're just going to tell you, hey, you need to figure this out. And also, do you have anything in yellow? Oh, I do, orange. Okay, so here, this is mono and it's on orange because my output is stereo. So that's a good question.
Right.
Because one of my output inputs is stereo, I
No, it's
have to have a stereo output.
I'm sending you
Yeah,
stereo. That's why.
yeah. And it's
So
forcing me
here I
to,
can switch that one over to mono, and now that should go away in a moment.
yeah.
It
And now I
should.
can choose a mono output. I should. I think we may have found a bug, Robert.
No,
This is why we're in beta.
close
I
the
should be
window.
able to choose now mono outputs, and I'm not. So we'll look into that. Good. So, I get chocolate for that, the bug bounty. Okay, so port sample rate conversion, we talked about that.
Let's see, asynchronous sending, mono, receive, or send mono, receive stereo. Queue Manager now is can work across sample rate conversions, and it's
Mhm.
much smarter about
Yeah.
differences in sample rate and differences in channel counts. Whereas Source 3, if you were sending mono and the other person was sending stereo, everything got knocked down to mono. So now it's much more flexible in terms of sample rates and channel counts and how it kind of handles those conditions.
Okay. So I think we may have covered everything we wanted to get through, and that was it. Oh,
And
sub
by the way,
accounts. Oh man, not
it did go away. Your or no, that's on your other version. Sorry, your
yeah.
pro version.
Hang on. Yeah, it will be here. No, I'm still seeing that. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Hmm.
So then we have a couple of other things. Maybe we can share the dashboard. I think would be most
Oh, sub
useful.
accounts, right?
Yeah. So one thing that's new, and this is super useful if you have a studio facility, is you see here I've gone to the sub accounts menu and source the dashboard, and I'll just unassign. I'll just leave it there. But what I'm able to do if I unassign that license here, unassign, that will make the license available to me. So as if I'd gone to the store, bought a new license, I can now assign a sub account. So I'm going to make one called Studio 2.
And to
And
make something clear, this is controlling your web based license. So this allows you to
right.
distribute licenses to
Oh,
users, but and Source
we
Connect
didn't
does
say
not.
the word.
What?
You go ahead, Robert.
Well, Source
Source
Connect
Connect
doesn't
does not.
require iLock anymore. But that being said, for all the
Yeah.
people that do love iLock, we will continue to offer an
Yes,
iLock
in
option.
the studio version, it's going to be optional. But
Yeah.
for those of you who do not want it, it's gone. So yeah, we will get to those questions. I see you guys are interested in those authorization questions. So I can either use the main password or I can set my own,
Two computers.
and then I choose this subscription, and now I have this, and I can go and log in now as Rebekah Studio 2. That will work. I still have my other one there that I created earlier, but I can't log in. It'll give me a login error. So maybe I can show that.
Adobe Audition
What it
is
looks like.
supported.
Yeah.
You can't record from like Adobe Audition itself is incapable of recording itself. So that's why you can only use it to send. You can't use Audition to receive.
Yeah. We've been talking to Adobe about this problem for years and years and years, and they haven't fixed it. So yeah.
We have
So that's
48-hour
sub
licenses. I
accounts.
don't know about 24-hour licenses.
Yeah, that's something that I was going to get into next, into the pricing. So Robert, basically
It doesn't change.
there's no change.
The
However, it's not quite true.
Yeah,
We should be
the difference is
clear.
that like Source Connect was there's a buyout fee or and then there was support, and the support was 105 a year, and that price was set, I believe, around 2007, or I'm not sure exactly when, but many years ago. And through all that inflation, everything, the cost of support and maintenance and what is called access to the servers and the whole ecosystem that makes all this possible is still just 105 a year. The only difference going forward is that that is required for presence on the network. It was just something that we couldn't enforce before. But besides that, the pricing hasn't changed. Source Connect is still 650 or 1495, and then it comes with the same amount of support, 6 months or a year, and then going forward after that 6 months or a year, the network access is 105 for legacy license holders, and we'll update people as if there are pricing changes. But certainly legacy license holders are not their price points are not changing.
And so, regards to upgrades, Yvonne, depending on the support history, an upgrade fee may be required.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert, do you want to explain
Right,
how
that's
that
the
works?
same as it always was. So when you had a license, anytime you needed an upgrade license, we looked back at your support history, and if there was no gaps in the support since your initial purchase or your purchase of a specific upgrade to the current version, then if there's no gaps in your support, you got the upgrade without any further cost. If there was gaps in your support, you would backfill those gaps up to a certain amount where it just locked in at no more than, for example, standard was $89 per version hop, um, and all those price points have also not changed at all. So
And until the day that we ship Source Connect 4, this rate will continue. So it's a very good time to buy your license because it will be going up
some,
after that.
we future pricing has to be set, but certainly the legacy license pricing is not changing. That's
No, absolutely. Yeah,
I think someone
that's a
asked,
guarantee.
existing license holders don't pay for 4.0. Existing license holders who have uninterrupted support don't have to pay an
Or
upgrade for,
subscriptions.
yeah. Subscriptions don't pay. Yeah, subscriptions you just get, you're on board.
Yeah.
And what's changing
Yeah.
here is that in the future you're going to have Source Connect or not, and there's not going to be this question of I have 3.7 and you have 3.5, and well, this feature works and that feature doesn't work.
Yeah.
You just are with Source Connect or you're not, and that's going to make it so much simpler in terms of compatibility and moving things, making it work, like making it just work.
Yeah. One other thing too is that we've got parity on Windows and Mac for every feature. There's not one feature at the moment that isn't parity, and it's really important to us. Unless there's really a reason that we can't, then you can trust that what you can do on a Mac, you can do on Windows. So that's important. I just wanted to do one thing because I forgot, and I just didn't want to. I wanted to get that in. Just going back to the facility and studio version, we have here network, which by default is off. And when I turn this on, I get access to 3 new settings. So I can choose what IP to use. We actually had this in 3.9, and then to use ports if I want to. It's now a range because each connection needs its own port, and the range is actually to 6008. That's a small glitch at the moment. It should go to 8 because we need for each connection 2 ports. One which isn't really used. However, the way the network
Similar to
internet
Source Connect
works,
3.9 that used
it
2,
wants
but
even ports.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then this really, really useful feature is proxy mode. So say I'm on a corporate network, the network's saying this is your IP address, but it's not actually your IP address because they do this a lot, then you can type in your actual IP address and you can still make connections. So we also have the same features.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, just to finish up this, the same features for pro users that they're used to, always on top, which I like. For example, if I can put this here and then I can keep working and I can have my Pro Tool session, I can always have that visible. So that's super useful. And show offline contacts. So for me, I've got a ton of contacts and maybe I just want to hide them. I only want to see who's online. That makes my life easier. And then auto login, which is on both. And on connection, maybe I work in a certain way and I just want to connect to automatically the last person I connected to or connect to all of them all the time. There are certain workflows that require that. I can change my volume of the alert, or I can just turn the alert to just go once because some people get annoyed by alerts. So there's a lot there. That's the global options in the Studio Facility version. So yeah.
I think it popped
Robert,
up
go
in
ahead.
the questions, but so will Source Connect 3.x go away? One day, yes. We don't know when that is, but it inevitably, as all things do, it will go away at some point. 3 and 4 do not connect to each other. They are extremely different, and it didn't seem to make a lot of sense to put a lot of work into making a backwards compatible feature that would just go away. So what we do have though is bridges to as you're connecting. We imagine in the next year or so, when you book a Source Connect session, the question for a while might be version 3 or version 4. And the reality is all version 3 users will get a version 4, or sorry, all version 4 license holders will still have a version 3 license. And so backwards compatibility can be achieved in a couple ways. Just run version 3. Or if you can't, because of who knows, you don't want to move down to non-native, or you want the silicon support of version 4, then you can just pass through a bridge, which we'll be providing for the foreseeable future for a while, at least during that transition from 3 to 4. And I think that a lot of questions just popped in. So let's see
Yeah,
here.
so Robert, let me start at the beginning because some people asked some very important questions back when we started, and I just want to go back and make sure we didn't miss anything. So, one thing was, can I use it with a VPN? The answer to that is absolutely. However, that VPN needs to be able to reach the public internet. So as long as you've got that VPN isn't completely closed off, then you'll have no problem. We don't have VPN mode in Source Connect 4 at this time, but we'll come back to that. Someone asked a question about Source Connect now. I'm not sure exactly what the question was. Ross, maybe you know.
Here, I'll scroll through it.
Starting from the top here. Here's an interesting question. How close is Source Connect to facilitating remote live band practice? Say 2 guitars in one location and drums and vocals in another. That's my specialty, but I love Robert. You go ahead and answer it.
Well, I think the funniest thing is that every time I ask you about this, your answer is, okay, I'll just go invent time travel.
Exactly.
So the answer is never, and anybody who says that they can do that is full of excrement. But as close as possible, at some point we will look at driving latencies as low as possible, let the quality be what it may. There's a lot of caveats with that workflow. And from our observations, for the most part, it's a little bit more on the kind of a fun trick, but not as useful as one might think. For example, as you play music whose tempo decreases, then it works better because the latency is a smaller error factor of the overall tempo. Your latency becomes only a 64th note instead of an 8th note, for example, at slower tempos. But there's just so many caveats where you will get used to learning to play with the latency. And then when you get back in person with your band, you will feel like you're just learning to play again for the first time.
The big one.
So it's just not something that we've been focusing on at this time because there are so many caveats, and it doesn't seem scientifically entirely possible, except for, we're all in the same city and we're all 5 blocks from each other. And at that point, just, get some exercise and go meet in the garage or something. So if it only works in a small metro area to get usable latency, that's not really the whole point of, remote internet jamming and playing. So it's an elusive feature.
I would add a different take on that, which is that if you are planning on always having an internet band, then you can make it work. The difference is if you're trying to rehearse something that then you want to go and play together, as Robert said, you're going to learn to play out of time, which I think is great. I'm into experimental music, but this is the difference really. And just to qualify, actually, in all our tests, Source Connect 4 does have low latency, so you're going to enjoy that out of the box. However, most of us are using Source Connect to have a conversation, and for conversation, latency can handle, 300 to 500 milliseconds, whereas music, it needs under 30. And that's hard to do. You need really dedicated hardware. You need a dedicated internet to scientific internet line.
Even at the speed of light, I think it's like, New York to LA is above 30 milliseconds at the speed of light.
Yeah. So
and the internet doesn't work at the speed of light. It's just yeah.
If any of you choose to go and search for my name in my thesis, you'll see that I studied this topic a lot. But it's experimental music, avant-garde music, kinds of, jazz, new forms. It's not your typical 4/4 kind of band music. It's not you're not gonna enjoy it. But still, I recommend trying it out because it's super fun.
Let me knock out some questions here. OSs that are supported: Mac OS as old as 10.14 up to the most current Windows
Mojave.
10 and 11, I believe.
Yep. And
Um,
Windows 10 11. Yep. Although 10 is not supported by Microsoft anymore, so be aware of anyone who's running 10.
yeah, it's only supported by bank machines. Um,
Yes, well.
and
Uh,
there's another
yeah.
question
Another
here.
question
Someone
at the
asked about
top.
the bridge, I think. Um,
Yes, the
the bridge will
bridge.
be
All right, so
dynamic.
this to come
Yeah.
back to very, very, very clear. Source Connect 3 and Source Connect 4 cannot talk to each other. They are completely different. They are re-engineered in a very different way. However, we have a bridge, which works like you'll go to the dashboard, you'll choose the person you want to talk to. Maybe they're on 3, maybe you're on 3, maybe they're on 4, it doesn't matter. And it will connect up. You'll log into Source Connect and you'll see this bridge user and connect to that bridge user. Your person you want to talk to, connect to that bridge user, and you'll be connected. Kind of like we do with Echo.
Mm-hmm. People who have the subscription, they will just be on 4 by the nature of their subscription. They don't really have to do anything. We still have, I think we'll still have the 2-day licenses. What OS is supported? We did that. Stockhausen was great, and he would love to do some internet jamming. Absolutely. Um, and what else?
Someone says, can we invite someone to enter in the connection, or does each participant need to have Source Connect?
You need to have Source Connect.
But that hasn't
Can
changed.
can you drop your static IPs? You can. Probably a
Yes.
little bit easier once Source Connect 3 is more out of circulation. So you might want to wait
Yeah.
on that a little bit. OS 13 is no, the 10.14 is the lowest, not OS 13 is well supported. We're talking about
Yeah. 10 to 14. Well
10.14.
back. Mojave, Monterey, Big Sur, Sonoma. I'm missing one. Ventura. Yeah. All
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah,
All of
the
those.
bridge will be there 24/7.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, for anyone who missed it, no iLock is needed.
Yeah.
See what
I
else
bet
we
we can
got.
scroll down through these questions. Can you? You
Yeah.
can't. Yeah,
I
you
have
can.
Source Connect standard. Will I need to make any changes when Source Connect 4 is released? Yes, Joel, you'll need to install Source Connect 4. However, the two can happily be installed at the same time. They do not interfere. I can connect to them both quite happily. I could, that's no problem at all to run them simultaneously.
Clocking drifts with jumping satellite
Oh,
connections
Robert,
to the
something
web.
happened to your audio. You went down to 10 kilohertz or something. Sample rate. You need
Do
to
I
juggle
sound?
something.
Am I speed changed? Hello.
No, 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 no.
Is it just
Please
bandwidth?
toggle your device. We're having some fun audio problems today.
Okay.
On
How
the
do I sound?
Academy, just while
Do I
Robert's
sound?
sorting that. Dinah, oh, you asked about the Academy. Yes, we will be updating that Source Connect for certification. It's looking pretty good.
Do I sound
That will
normal?
be out shortly. And for
Hello.
Byron, compatibility with Twisted Wave. Twisted Wave is a sound editor. It's not
Check, check, check.
and it doesn't have that mixed functionality to be able to record in. There are ways that you could just record yourself with Twisted Wave, and as a backup is
Yeah.
usually
It'll
what
still
that's
work with
used for.
Twisted
And
Wave in the
Starlink
same
works
way that
no
that
problem.
Twisted 3 does.
Also, IPv6 is fully supported. I'm very proud about that. We didn't mention that enough in our document. I'm going to put that in the for next time. IPv6. It's absolutely supported on IPv6.
Can you hear me?
And let's see, registration. Sorry, Robert. No, something super funny went wrong with your audio. Yeah. So how many computers can I use this? So it's very simple. At the same time, you can use your. Oh, is it my audio, Robert? Ross, can you tell me more
Hello, hello,
what's going
hello.
on?
Do you hear me?
You can't hear me. Okay.
Do you hear me? Who hears who? We should have used Source Connect. Hello.
I don't know.
Am I being heard or not?
Okay, so you can hear Robert, but something I can't hear Robert. Well, I'll just okay, good. We're using it's a browser product that's not ours, so I can't troubleshoot it. I'm going to turn my audio on.
1, 2. Do you hear me yet, Rebekah? Hello? Nope.
Hey, Robert?
Yep, I'm here.
No, I still have it.
You don't have me?
My Chrome just went. All right.
Uh,
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know how to keep going on this because if I reboot this,
wait,
then I'm going to
hold on.
lose the
Talk
stream.
through Source Connect. Hold on. Talk through Source Connect. 1 second. Here, I got it. Blah, blah,
I know
blah,
how.
blah, blah, blah. Okay, now do you hear me?
Hang on.
Check
I'm
1,
going to get on another.
2. Input. Check 1, 2. Check. Okay, now do you hear me, Rebekah? On Source Connect?
Okay.
Do you hear me on Source Connect now? I'm sending it to you on Source Connect.
Oh, it's so funny. It's this isn't relevant to the call, but somewhere in between the call that Robert and I are making, the servers, the audio's gone bad. So sorry about this, everybody. I can't control this connection.
Rebekah, can you hear me on Source Connect?
Ah,
I'm talking to you.
we're using. I don't want to out the product we're using because they've been fantastic until now. Right.
Listen.
Robert, you and I can't hear each other, but are you answering questions?
You. So I will answer questions. Let me go back to that stream. It's all good. Let's see. Check out Source Connect. It's all good. Is there a connection through Zoom for clients and/or so Nexus would be our product that kind of does what Zoom does, and if you're using Nexus Review, you can easily point that at Zoom if you need to use Zoom specifically. I had issues getting 12 people at the same time. You had issues with 12 people at the same time on Zoom, or I'm not sure who. You need some Sharpies. Look at all these. Assuming that the licenses for 3940 will coexist. We can use. Yes, you can use it on 2 computers. A lot of people saying that you hear us.
No, it is. It's Robert's end for me.
Let's see.
Guys, I'm really sorry. I don't know if I can hear
Just a lot of
you
people saying they hear us.
anymore. So there's a lot of questions here.
Not happening here. Trying to turn on CC, but not happening. I'm not sure what you mean by trying to turn on CC. There's not a lot of other questions. Let's see, where are you?
Hey, Robert, do you hear me?
Yep, I hear you. Yes, I hear you.
No. I don't. So why don't you answer all the questions and I'll be
I
quiet.
think I've gone through and answered all the questions. Let me see, some others are popping up here. So let me go to the top. When does the open beta start? In a few days. You're both on Source Connect right now. Just I am sending to her on Source Connect. Um, I don't know why she's not listening to me on Source Connect. Official beta launch. Let's see. Compatibility questions. Starlink mute me has intrinsic latency change. Has the latency has not changed, and you can still use Starlink. I don't see why not. Um, a perpetual license, but no support contract. What's my upgrade path? You'll probably have a minimum upgrade fee, or depends on how many months out your support contract is. Standard, it'd be $89 to upgrade, and then it's the normal support going forward after that, which is 105. Yeah, here we can try this one. I can't do that. I am talking to you here. Hello.
Hey, Robert.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I guess we're
We did
able
the Source Connect where we get a
to
discount.
finish. So guys,
I
you
don't know
can
about that,
hear
but we
me.
will have a Black Friday
But
sale.
yeah.
Does restore and replace work between Pro and Standard? Yes, and Standard will get the ability to provide replace. On Nexus, had issues with 12 people. Nexus doesn't do 12 people at the same time right now, Tom, so that would explain that one. It's a smaller meeting size. We're working on getting big meetings like that. Someone can provide a link in the chat here for a link to sign on for the beta. Support is per license, not per account. Does restore and replace work between Pro? I already answered that. Like clients.
Hey, my
Is
sound
latency
is
any
back, by
different
the way.
between an Irish what link and a Canadian link? The latency ultimately depends on what your internet connection provides for your ping times between the two endpoints. But theoretically, if the internet is working well, it should be well under half a second, even across the world. Here's the link. Thank you, Kike. Official launch date, or at least beta, in a few days for beta. It's impossible to pin down a launch date. It depends on if everything goes perfectly smoothly. Then hopefully around maybe January, I'd imagine, would be an official launch. We're probably going to be pretty conservative on the launch to make sure everything is just working well. The Irish link outdrinks the Canadian link. Is that what happens? You will not lose 3 if you move to 4. The license will be updated to match up with your 4 license, but everyone who has 4 will have 3 by default. And the bridge will not be required. Bridge will be an option, but it's not absolutely required. The bridge is there for people that don't want to use 3 for some other technical reason. Yes, RTS will be more explained in in a future webinar. But for the most part, it runs with MTC and LTC and is very similar beyond that. The Canadian link will go outside to throw up. Other questions? 2 at once. Talk about the Black Friday sale. All I can tell you is that there will be a Black Friday sale. We can't tell you anything about it other than check it out when we announce it, which will be, I'm not sure when exactly, but shortly. Can 3 and 4 come on the same machine? Absolutely, they can exist on the same machine. Will all client connections transfer to 4? Your connection list will transfer over to 4, and that will all be the same. What what's with the I I have a main account and a connection, and have a sub account with another in the studio version. Okay, I see. It's gonna be great. Um,
I'm back now, by the way.
I've answered all the questions. I
Fantastic.
don't know if you can hear me, Rebecca, but I've answered all the questions so far.
I can. You can hear me again? You can't hear me.
I can't now. I can't hear you. By the way, whatever you've done, I can't hear you. I'm gonna switch over to Source Connect and unmute these.
No, it's not you. It's you
Send
should be able
out
to hear me now.
output.
It's
No, I
this
can't.
program.
Oh, yeah, over here.
Yeah.
Okay, Rebecca, say something.
Yes, hi there.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So,
Okay, it's gonna echo a
uh,
little bit.
I think we've answered a ton of questions then. If there's something else come in, so Bob, there was one, the connection will show if you're on 3 or 4. If you're logged into 4, it won't show you're on 3. It'll just show you're on 4. So you don't have to worry about that getting
If you
confused.
are comfortable with the beta, you can use it. Please do. If it's working well for
Yes,
you, use it.
absolutely. It's definitely ready. There's just some small minor things that we're preparing for the future release, but it's really, really, really good.
Yeah. Live stream has been wild. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have another webinar. We have 2 more webinars. We're going to go deep, deep, deep into the Restore Replace Queue Manager, and we're going to go deep into Remote Transport Sync and Timeline Synchronization.
You can run it over Wi-Fi if your Wi-Fi is stable. We usually recommend, Ethernet if possible, but if the internet's good, if the bandwidth is there, it'll be fine. The
Correct.
beta and Source Connect 4 will never connect to version 3. You will have to use a bridge. Yep. Link for beta.
Yep. Sign up here. It's really close. No, so anyone who was on the private beta earlier, we're just getting the new one up. Hopefully tomorrow or the next day. We'll send an email. But the public beta is scheduled for next week. So anyone who has an existing Source Connect license will be able to download it. If you do not own Source Connect, and when that beta is out, you will not be able to try it out. So it's only for Source Connect users. And then shortly afterwards, it will be available for everybody to try.
The bridge will, in theory, have audio degradation in the sense that it is a codec that is being encoded, decoded, and re-encoded, so it will cascade through a codec. That has not stopped bridges from being used quite a bit in the past with worse sounding codecs like ISDN codecs. But yes, in theory, going through the bridge will expose your audio to 2 codecs.
The license is the same, Mac or Windows. You can choose where you log in. And back when my audio was getting messed up, by the way, Bluetooth headphones. Never use Bluetooth headphones on a webinar, it turns out. It just completely conked out. So next time, wired headphones. Your
3 and 4
license,
can exist on the same computer without a problem. They work beside each other, yes.
Robert, can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Oh, good. Sorry. And with the licenses, did we go over that it can run it
Restore and
on 2
replace will
computers?
not work over the bridge. The bridge would break restore replace. Will there be a recording of this? I assume. I assume we'll upload this, right? Yep.
Yeah, this is recorded. So it's recorded on YouTube. It's saved on YouTube.
Souse. Bring some souse.
Oh, yes, I do like some maple syrup whiskey. Great. Well, thanks everyone so much. We wanted to just note that we are going to keep your eyes on your inbox for upcoming announcements. We've got something planned for everybody that's been with us over the years, and it'll be a great time to get an excellent deal. So watch your inbox the next 10 days. Own
Yes,
can
that
be
includes subscriptions.
subscription, yeah,
Yes.
or license. So to both of them. Yeah.
If you can launch Source Connect 3,
Mhm.
then you will be able to access the beta of Source Connect 4.
Exactly. Yeah. If you can launch and log in. Yeah. Well, if you can launch it, you can log in. Yeah. Great. Good. Yes. We'll be at
We were at AES.
NE next year
Where were
again,
you?
and AES and probably NAM.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for showing up here and watching us play with remote audio platforms and
Yes.
Bluetooth audio.
Yeah. Never again. Never again. Bluetooth. Bad idea. Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.